Hello everyone, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. A lot has been taking place across the regional scene. We turn our attention now to Monserrat. Joining us is the former House Speaker of Monserrat Assembly, Miss Shirley Osborne. Of course, she's no stranger to our platform. She is also a candidate in the upcoming general elections. Now, a lot of the issues that we face, not only here in the British Virgin Islands, but across the region, we sometimes feel like they're isolated, and they're not. We have a lot more in common than we think. So we're going to take an in-depth conversation and a look at the tone, what has been taking place in Monserrat, and of course, the upcoming general elections. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Pop the Balloon or Find the Connection. Let's meet our first contender, ladies. Okay, Joey, so do you have any toxic traits?
I'm very restrictive. I don't give more time. What you get is what you get. I don't like to give unlimited time. That's it.
Okay, can you tell us why you popped your balloon?
That's a little too restricted for me.
Thank you for coming. Okay, ladies, so let's meet our second contender.
Sorry, excuse me. Why did you pop a balloon? I could give you minutes, data, unlimited call, overseas call, fiber. What else you need?
My friend used to date you. You are scam. She used to be for everything and more. Nothing to offer.
Okay, ladies, let's welcome our last contender. You look nice. Can you tell us your name?
Thank you. My name is Christian Charles Thomas. They call me C Sweetie.
What do you have to offer these ladies?
Well, security, trust, unlimited time, and a pretty fast.
Okay, so do you have any deal breakers?
Nah, but here's my number. 444-4444. Y tú, vida ilimitada.
Okay, guys, so no pop balloons.
For a fast, reliable, and secure connection for your personal or business life, call us at 444-4444 or visit any of our CCT stores and we'll get you connected with the perfect match for you.
Life is unpredictable, and when a storm is coming, having a plan can make all the difference.
We need a plan in case of a hurricane. Everyone, let's work together on this.
This is where we go in case if we need to evacuate. This is safe away from flood zones.
I will use this room as our secure space if we have to stay home.
Don't forget to save our local contacts and also our off-island contacts.
Right, and we need to have a plan for our pets too. They can't go to shelters, so we need a safe place for them.
In case we get separated, we should have a meeting spot. How about the community center?
That's good, and we can leave a note there too.
I feel safe knowing we have a plan.
With a plan, you're not just preparing for the worst, you're taking control of the situation. A message from the Department of Disaster Management and 284 Media.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. As promised, we are joined virtually by the former House Speaker of the Monserrat Assembly, Miss Shirley Osborne. There has been quite a number of activities on the ground going on in Monserrat, and as I always say, a lot of the issues that we face across the region are not isolated. First of all, thank you for your time and welcome to our platform.
Thank you. Hi, Ron. Thank you for having me again. It's good to see you.
Likewise, always a pleasure. As mentioned, within the past few months, there has been a number of happenings on Monserrat, a lot of movement, a lot of activity on the political front, most importantly, as well as actions by the governor. It's been quite a lot. You've had a switch in police commissioner and an increased level of police presence. Do me a favor and encapsulate some of the activities and happenings that have taken place over the past few months.
Interesting. The last year or so, we've seen what is causing Monserratians some concern. There's been a lot of talk from the British government, the British representatives, about safety in Montserrat and security in Montserrat. And we've had one thing that was done. This was a couple of years ago. The governor, who is responsible for the police service, retired several senior police officers, local police officers. A large number came in from the UK, including we've changed commissioner 3 or 4 times. We've lost count, to be honest. The commissioners come and gone. One was to have come, then didn't come. One came for a year, left early, and of course, there's a lot of speculation because there's no clear information has been given about why this was happening. And now we have one who is from, I think, Sussex. Anyway, I can't remember which part of England, but and he has come in and has been talking a lot about security now, safety. And one of the things that Monserratians are very proud of is that Monserrat is safe. Monserrat is safe. I can walk around Monserrat anytime of the day or night, literally, and feel safe. We have some of the same challenges as everybody else, but Monserrat is a very safe place. We have hardly any homicides. It might be one every 10 years or something. Rape cases, the same thing, at least reported ones. You don't get hit on the street. People don't take your bags. We don't have people breaking into houses and things like that. We've had spate of that in the past, but Monserrat is a safe place, and we are proud of that. And yet, the British people have been making this push recently about Monserrat being unsafe, about security and safety in Monserrat. And there's a lot of work being done with the police. The governor herself has been down to the prison, very proudly announced that she helped change the locks on the prison because of safety concerns and things. And so we're a little bit bemused. And then, of course, it's election year, and we're all waiting to see what's going to happen with that.
Right. Well, before we go any further, I have to ask you, where do you think this narrative of safety is coming from? And just like you eloquently mentioned, Monserrat has always been a safe place. Where do you think this narrative is coming from, and what's the aim?
We don't know. There's speculation. We're looking at how relationships between Monserrat and the British have been in the last years. We are concerned that this is part of a strategy to position Monserrat for a more heavy-handed British activities within the island. The governor has been very much involved in how the government works. Literally, she by herself stopped night security at the airport. The minister apparently and the premier, the minister was responsible for the airport, the minister of communications and works, and the premier and the airport manager all objected, madam, chose to security. The excuse being that it was a cost that was unnecessary. Now, you might not know, Fly Monserrat has 3 airplanes that are parked there every night, and yet there is no security. So things like that's happening. There was the question of the what's still called the exclusion zone, which is the southern part of the island, immediately most affected by the volcano. It's a site that's been open for tourists. And what used to happen before was when they were taking tourists in there, police officers would support. The governor stopped that, so there's no police support for going in there. Yet we know that because it's an unsecured border, 2/3 of the island is unsecured. There's no security down there, and we know that all kinds of things happen or could happen down there. So we think that it's all part of a plan. Some people call it a conspiracy to declare Monserrat in need of heavier British presence, and then to bring that in. And we think that it's all connected to all the work, the agenda that we think they have for all of the British, all the Caribbean territories.
Overseas territories. Yeah, just like the British Virgin Islands. You would know that we have presently an order in council that is still looming over our heads as a result of the recently held Commission of Inquiry. Now, months of work locally has gone into establishing the various reforms. Unfortunately, a few missed deadlines, and all are still not complete. When you look at that heavy-handed method of the UK wanting to operate in such a fashion with a number of the overseas territories, what do you think needs to be done on a regional scene to move forward and to move away from this?
Well, I think that the territories, we all need to talk amongst ourselves individually. Each territory needs to be very, very clear, I think, about where we want to go, what kind of government, what kind of governance we want. We need to be very clear about our stance on self-determination and autonomy. We need to be very clear about that and make it very clear to the British government what we want. And then beyond that, I think we actually really need to work together some more. You look at signs and signals and you see that there is no real attempt by the protocol administrating power to have us work together. And I think we ought to be doing that on our own. There's strength in numbers, and we need to be intentional about this, and we need to be speaking about these issues together. Just last night, actually, I was in a political conversation, and we were bemoaning the fact that, in fact, when this happened with the BVI, of course, everybody said something, but nobody really put any what shall I call it, any real heavy energy into supporting the BVI. We stand with the BVI, we all said, but I think we could do more. We should be talking to one another and working with one another much more deeply than we're doing now. Because there's a message that needs to be sent that we're not in the 1800s anymore. We're not even in the early 1900s. We're in the 21st century, and each territory has a right to self-determination, to decide what we want, how we want, and how we earn our money and what to do with our money, and what our laws should be, the laws that should guide us, what they should be. And they should be determined by our culture, and not be imposed from above.
Understood. Now, what would you say is the present tone on the ground with Monserratians? And of course, we're going to get into the election next, but how do Monserratians feel about what has transpired and what seems to be that very negative narrative that's being presented? And not only how do they feel about it, but what's the intention to tackle this issue?
To be honest, Ron, it's a mixture of frustration and a sense of helplessness. One such situation is that since we've had the volcanic eruptions, we have been in granting aid. We have been very heavily subsidized by the British government. And it's been 30 years, 29 years, it's beginning to wear on the national psyche. And people are beginning to just feel, why bother? Mm-hmm. It's so hard to get back on our feet. And it's so hard to get back on our feet because the support that's supposed to be coming to us is not coming. Or it comes in dribs and drabs. Or literally you get told, if you do this, you make this particular case, this will happen. We make the case and then the goalposts get moved and we're back to square one. So much of that has been happening that people are literally just very frustrated, very feeling very unable to help ourselves and not knowing where to begin. And then the heavy-handed approach by this particular governor, some people think she's doing it all on her own, and other people are clear that no, she couldn't be doing it on her own. This has to be something coming from above. And so even in terms of, what happens after our elections and what we do going up to the elections and so on, people are not feeling very happy. And a lot of people are leaving the island. Young people, even people who are working are leaving the island because so many people just don't see a way through because it's just so heavy. The presence is so heavy and oppressive.
Understood. Now, speaking of change makers and doing your very best to impact change, you are no stranger to service. I want to talk about the elections. You have decided to contest the next general elections in Monserrat. Tell us about the date for the elections and what would have led you to make this decision.
Well, the government set the date 2 weeks ago for October 24th, which means they gave people 2 months, just about 8-9 weeks to prepare. And we all knew it was coming. It was due this year anyway. So we knew it was coming and people were preparing. I'm choosing to be in it this time, well, because I've been in politics in Montserrat pretty much all my life, if you want. My family's a political family, and so I've been involved in some way, shape or form. Active politics. I ran in the last election and I ran as an independent because of party politics. In Monserrat, however, independents don't really do very well. My father won as an independent when he ran in 1960s or something, the very first time. Then it was a party ever since. And we have 1 or 2 people who were very popular in their parties, and so on their own, they managed to win because they held office before and so on. And so I decided this time I would run with a party if I'm really serious about being in office, to be able to influence on the changes that are so necessary for Montserrat. And I want to be in the government because it is clear to me that Montserrat needs a different kind of governance. In Montserrat, we talk about strength. What we need is people with strength to push back against what the British are doing, people with strength to help us recover from the devastation from the volcano, people with strength to help us recover the energy, the drive, the pride in being Montserratian that we used to have, that has kind of been lost in the middle of all this devastation and poverty and grief that has come in the wake of the volcano. And I'm also running because I've spent a lot of my life outside of Montserrat. I was sent away to school when I finished my O-levels. I've worked abroad, come back home, went away again. And I think that perspective on the world, it can be very useful to Montserrat. And as a matter of fact, I found it very useful to Montserrat when I was in the Speaker's office between 2014 and 2019, because Montserrat needs to find its place in the world again. And Montserrat needs to find its place as Montserrat. We don't want to be an appendage of Great Britain. We want to be our own people. We want to be recognized and acknowledged for ourselves, our culture, our traditions, our aspirations, our people. And so, however, to rebuild Montserrat requires a constant interchange with the outside world. And that means having a knowledge, having experience with the outside world, which I have. I went to school in England, I've lived in Europe, lived in the United States, I've worked in China. When I was with the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, I did a lot of traveling all over the world for work, places like Jordan and Zambia. And I've spent the last years looking at how what happens in the world affects Montserrat and what I think Montserrat's responses ought to be, how Montserrat ought to position herself within the world. And so I am running on that. And then, of course, just the whole idea of, a sense of self. Montserrat needs to regain a sense of self. Yeah, I was brought up in that milieu. My father was that. And that's kind of what I want to bring back.
I wanted to get your feel and presence as you are on the campaign trail. And of course, you mentioned it's a very short time frame. What has your interactions been like with the general public and your sharing of your vision and your dream for the people?
My direct interaction has been a little bit limited these last couple of months because, like I said, I broke my leg, and so I've been housebound for a little bit. I wasn't able to walk around as I would have liked. I've begun to do that again now, and I'm getting people want change. People want something different. They want something better. They're looking for something, somebody, some entity that will inspire them and that will do that they can have confidence in, that will make a difference, a real significant difference to Monserrat. And they're very clear. They articulate this very clearly. They're dissatisfied with what's going on with the government. We've had projects, for example, like the port project, building a jetty, that has been taking a very long time. We can't see where it's going. The hospital that's been on the boards for yonks. We're not seeing where that's going either. People are complaining the cost of living, some of the usual things, but in a small place like Montserrat, they intensify just because Montserrat is so small and because we're so close. People they're just asking, what are you going to do? What are the politicians going to do? Don't tell me what has been done or not been done. Just tell me how you're going to get us out of this. And that's a positive, because we were concerned that the situation that Montserrat's in right now requires real serious attention, and therefore requires a different view of voting. Of course, because it's such a close society, we vote for the friend, we vote for the family, we vote for the person wwho helps you rather than the person who is more likely to make the difference. But it seems that people are wanting to do that now. And of course, we have three parties. It was four until a couple of weeks ago. We have three parties who are all saying pretty much the same things, because everybody knows what the problems are. And so people are concerned again that it won't be any one party winning. We'll have a coalition. We'll have some from each. And then that could be destructive. It could be disruptive because maybe we won't get along. Maybe because we can't get along or because of how we beat up one another in the campaign, we might not be able to get along. So there's real concern on the part of Monserratians. What's going to happen now? If we don't pull out of this really, really strongly, we could be in for some really, really bad weather.
Wow.
One interesting thing is that there are a lot more women running this year than before. One party has 5 women, one has 4, one has 2. And so there are 11 women in the parties. And people are saying maybe this will change. But I remember watching BVI last year and thinking that maybe that would be too. But we are again locked into these old ideas about who ought to be able to do what. So really, Ron, the best thing I can say, it's touch and go. We're not quite sure. We're just we're doing our best, and we're trying to speak as clearly and as closely to the issues as possible. But it's really, it's politics, and it has these added issues. So it's anybody's guess.
Understood. Guess. Well, we, of course, will be following the election and the process in Monserrat, and we wish you much success. But I want to close with this. What do you say to the Monserratian diaspora who may not be on the ground? You mentioned that many persons of all age brackets have moved away. But what do you say to the Monserratian diaspora who's looking on? How can they play a more pivotal role in the development of Monserrat and helping to move the country in the right direction?
It's interesting you bring that up. It's good that you bring that up because that's one of our major problems. Again, we've lost you. Oh, for God's sake.
No, you're good. We can
okay.
See.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So cut that.
So start over from one of the major. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask the question again. I want to talk and close with this rather because as you continue to approach the election date, there's a lot of movement. But you mentioned that a lot of persons have moved away from Monserrat of all different age brackets. Mm-hmm. But I still believe that despite that, the Monserratian diaspora plays a really pivotal role. What do you say to the Monserratian diaspora who's away, they're not on the ground, but what role can they play in the development of Monserrat moving forward?
Well, my personal position on that is that we say that on Ireland we have 4,500 people. Also, the population of Monserrat is 4,005. I say the population of Monserrat is those at home and those abroad. And I think we ought to, I believe with my whole heart that there ought to be much more engagement with the people in the diaspora. Ron, most of the people who left Monserrat, the vast majority of people who left Monserrat in 1996, 98, 2000, 2, 3, 4, did not want to leave. They were forced to leave. So it wasn't that I want to go away and build a new life. And some of that is what's coming back at us. I want to be involved in my country, and you're telling me no. Because we have these these election laws that don't allow them to participate. And then we got them rewritten, which allow them to participate, but they're getting confused. Let me just quickly give you what I've been working on in this election, as a matter of fact. Precisely because these people were left without wanting to, we get the idea that since they've changed how the elections work, it's not just first past the post anymore. It's not by constituency. It's all 9, etc. If it were possible for the 20, 30, 50,000 Monserratians overseas to vote in our elections, it would overwhelm the people here, right? Because everybody can vote for whoever they want. The Elections Commission has, over the last few years, done some work trying to figure out how to make that work. And we thought of going back to constituencies. Most people said, actually, the overwhelming idea is that we go back to constituencies and create one specifically for the diaspora. So they would get the chance to vote in a member of parliament. That has not been enacted yet. So we're still in this place where there are people who are coming back home now. They're professionals, for example, or people who are retired, or people who are just having young families who want to come to Monserrat. They have a house. They come home. They spend weeks or months at a time. They come 3-4 times a year. They keep a house here. They pay taxes here. They're engaged in what's going on here, and are told they cannot vote because there's a residency requirement. And without taking too long about this, there's something called domicile by origin, which means you're born here, and domicile by choice, which means you come in. And if you're domiciled by choice, you have to have been here for 36 months by the time you register to vote. If you're domiciled by origin, you just have to be resident. But the authorities here, the AG's office and the Electoral Commission have been putting Monserratians, domicile by origin, enforcing this 36-month requirement. And so there are all these people who are wanting to come home, who are wanting to participate, and this very basic right is being denied them. My advice, for a better term, is that they just keep pushing. And we're doing that from here and looking for them to also keep pushing back. Some of them have said, you know what, I can't be bothered, it's too much work, I just won't bother. We don't want that. I'm telling them, keep getting involved. We need the skills, we need all the resources, financial, emotional, social, professional. We need all of those things, all those resources back in Monserrat. And the way the world works now, Ron, you don't have to be living here 365 days a year to participate fully, right? You can be out there and participate in all kinds of ways, in trade, in education, in health. There's so many ways for them to participate. So I'm just asking them to just keep participating, just keep doing what you can. And eventually we'll get to the point where the laws will change that will allow you the full engagement that you want. But on the other hand, I want also to say to Monserratians regarding the diaspora, because there's a kind of resentment, Monserratians who left, those who stayed resent and push back against those who are coming back home because you left. We were in trouble and you left, which of course, it's just an emotional thing that has been allowed to grow and fester over the years. And so there's this resistance at home. And I just want to say to Monserratians, but I've been saying this forever, these people are our sisters and brothers and aunties and cousins and neighbors. We know them. They are part of us. We want them to come home. We want to welcome them to home. And also the government to facilitate their return, facilitate their engagement in their island. We don't have the luxury of 300 million people. We can't afford to lose anyone. We can't afford to be resistant and dismissive of them. We need our people. And we also need our Caribbean, our regional relationships also to support these. So yeah, come home and get involved is what I keep saying.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much for that. And as always, thank you so much for the conversation, connecting the region through conversations. Viewers, you heard from former House Speaker of the Monserrat Assembly, who is now a candidate in the upcoming general elections in Monserrat in October, Miss Shirley Osborne. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye-bye.